time to talk about luxury cruising. From suites so sweet to ships elite. Come explore the world in style with me on Luxury Cruising, the podcast.
Hey, it's Krystal here. Before we get started, did you know that there is a way for you to directly support the podcast? Head over to my website, luxurycruising.net, and you can buy me a latte, a glass of champagne, or even a whole bottle of champagne if you want. Leave me a note, and I'll be sure to give you a shout out on the next episode. That's luxurycruising.net. You can also leave me a note or ask a question. Okay, let's get on with the show. Welcome back to Luxury Cruising. I'm your host, Krystal Sodaitis, and we've got, honestly, one of my favorite guests back with us. Bradley is here. He is going to talk to us and really educate us, and me too, about Cunard and specifically the grills. Like, what is that level of service? What does it mean? I can't wait to dig in and learn everything I can. So Bradley, please remind the audience of who you are and let them know anything you want them to know about you.
Of course. Well, hello everyone. My name is Bradley. You've probably seen me before. I am from Wales in the United Kingdom. And to keep it short and sweet, I am just addicted to cruising. Everything about cruising in its entirety, that's me. I'm 30 years of age and I've already been on 60 voyages from every different brand you can think of. Of course, I haven't gone on them all yet, but we're trying to get it all ticked off the list. But yeah, my love for cruise is my love for life, should we say.
Awesome. That is amazing. Okay, so let's start with Cunard in general, because I think of it as sort of the quintessential classic. It is a cruise line, but also it's known for ocean liners. So give us some background on Cunard. And I think I kind of know, but if you know, what's the difference between a cruise ship and an ocean liner?
Of course, yeah. As you rightly said, I think Cunard as a whole, even though owned by an American parent company, the Carnival Corporation, it is quintessentially a British brand, should we say, from the start, all the way back to the earlier ships, which I believe is the White Star Line, famous for certain ships, shall we say. Don't want to throw the name in there, but there's certain ships that are a very famous one and a very famous movie, and many others, in which it's very much that white glove service. You have the bellboys, they call them, the Cunard boat, there with their red hats, their red uniforms to welcome you on board, the afternoon tea, and famously, as you know, that they're all named after queens. Queen Elizabeth, Queen Victoria, the new Queen Anne, and of course the iconic ocean liner, the only ocean liner left in the world, Queen Mary II. Now, I'm not an expert on ships, should we say, but from my understanding, an ocean liner is purpose-built to cross the Atlantic or the transatlantic voyage, because one of the most famous voyages in the world, especially QM2 or Queen Mary II's famous voyage, is the transatlantic. So that's 7 nights from Southampton all the way into New York and vice versa, in which, from what I know, is one of the most famous and most well-loved voyages ever, because not a lot of people like to fly, as we know. I prefer to cruise. Of course, I have no issue jumping on a plane, but it's so iconic because that was done in the yesteryear, should we say, in the years gone by, where you had all the celebrities, the socialites, the philanthropists, everything going on, that they would be on this because it was the best way to travel and the most luxurious way to travel. And not just that, but you could take your dogs on board. I think that was the selling point.
Right.
So only on QM2, as far as I know, they have a dedicated kennels in which I believe is booked out 2.5 years in advance. Because you can also imagine there's quite a few people who have family in different ends of the earth, should we say, or different ends of the Atlantic, and they take their animals because they go for 6, 9, 12 months of the year, and for even longer. And of course, I think people would much rather be with their pets when traveling. Of course, on a plane, it's a bit different unless you go private, but you're not with your pets, you're putting through so much stress. On board, I've seen it for myself, they are treated better than humans, should we say. They've got everything they could ask for, and rightly so, the amount it costs, because I know it's a lot of money. I don't know the exact cost. However, it's that tradition where the bellboys will take them around the deck. It'll be sectioned off. You have certain hours throughout the day where you can go see them. They've got their own kennels and they're very well looked after. And yeah, I think it's just a tradition that Cunard started, and it's Still here today. So yeah, and as I said, that's on QM2. It's even got the American fire hydrant and the British telephone box
Mhm.
and everything like that for them to feel at home when they need to enjoy or relieve themselves, should we say? But it's the QM2, the only ocean liner in the world and the most famous, from what I know. So yeah, that's what I believe, and that's why I strongly love the fact that Cunard, throughout their years of how long they've been in service, it still remained at the top of that quintessential classic era of cruising. And even though a lot has changed within the industry, of course, it still has that label that it is, oh,
Yeah.
Cunard. And that's how I like to say it.
Yes.
So yeah.
Yeah. People definitely perk up when you hear Cunard.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. Let's just say a standard veranda stateroom. Would you consider that on the premium side or on the luxury side?
Given the fact, as everybody knows and yourself, I've gone on recently quite a few six-star cruises and, gone right into the luxury market, should we say, and ultra luxury. Back before these companies started, I would say more towards the luxury side. Of course, every cruise to a degree is luxurious, okay? And we're all lucky
Mhm.
enough if we get to go on one, that's a luxury within itself. I'm going to say
Absolutely.
that Cunard slots nicely into the premium line because they're certainly not small ships. They're medium to large ships. I'm going to say more on the medium size. 2,500 passengers, that sort of thing. Unless you're in the grills, every standard of class, again, it used to be a class basis, and some people still think of it as a class basis. And so you've got the Britannia Club, Princess Grill, and Queen's Grill. So even though the grills takes into account the princess and the queens, there's two different levels. I'll go through the difference there, how it differentiates. However,
Yeah.
um, yes, if you're in the grills, you're very much looking at the luxury side of things from many different aspects. And the ship as a whole and the company and the line, very much within the premium market. Obviously, since
Mhm.
COVID and even before COVID, things have changed and there's been cutbacks. So I certainly wouldn't say that, they may have lost that edge over their competitors, should we say, and different lines have come out. But I'm very much saying it's certainly not a budget cruise line by any means. And they still have that traditional sense of in the evenings, there is a dress code. It's not as strict as it used to be, but gentlemen wear jackets, ladies cocktail, whatever ladies decide to wear. It's all labeled, but very much, it's a formal cruise line, should we say,
Mhm.
but more
Yeah.
relaxed as of now.
Yeah. Okay. That's a good sort of like backdrop. So now tell us about the different grills and what distinguishes them, what pops them into that luxury category.
So the grills in its entirety, it differs between ships because obviously there's a new ship now and that's changed a bit from the older ships. So the concept of the grills is epitome of luxury within their brand. It's very much like, with the Sanctuary Collection with Princess,
Mhm.
MSC's Yacht Club, the Haven
Mhm.
with NCR. So it very
Yeah.
much revolves around that. But this was set prior to all these companies because, of course, the grills goes back, gosh, I can't tell you how many years. It used to be a class based system back in the olden days, should we call it? People still think of it now. However, I just think of it as it's a suite category. So the grills in
Mhm.
itself, you will get Princess Grill and Queen's Grill. Now, with both, you get priority boarding, priority welcome. You get in the Princess Grills the differential to the cabins or the suites, should we say, because there's a Princess Grill suite and a Princess Queen's Grill suite. Now, obviously, the Princess, it's like the mini suites on a Princess ship, sort of the Royal class
Okay. Yeah.
ships. So it's like a
Mhm.
superior deluxe balcony on other ships. So you'll walk into your suite, there'll be, of course, your lovely bed, a nice sofa with a little sort of dining area, and then your balcony. And some differ, there's either a bath or a shower, depending on what ship you're in. So it's very much follows the same standard layout of other ships. Now, the Queen's Grill suites are obviously bigger. So the epitome of, a queen trumps a princess. So it's very
Right.
much
Yeah.
that. So in regards to the suites themselves, yes, they do differ, and they differ a lot because you have different categories then of Queen's Grill. So the Princess Grill are all the same category. Obviously, some are a bit better if they're in the middle of the ship, but they're all the same layout and all the same square footage or meters or whichever way you are in the world. Now, the Queen's Grills differ quite a lot. We like the aft Queen's Grill suites because they have a lovely wraparound balconies or deeper balconies at the back. Some have big ones at the front. Again, it all depends what ship you're on. But these can vary from a standard Queen's Q6 suite, which we love, right up to a duplex or a staircase with two balconies, piano, bar, everything you can think of. They even have adjoining rooms. So if there's a big family, or if you have, there's some families that go with staff, should we say, or nannies or anything like that, everything is there. So it very much varies in the size of there. Now, in the grills experience itself, there's two restaurants. You get the Princess Grill restaurant and the Queen's Grill restaurant. Now, is there a lot of difference? Some people will disagree with me and say, no, there's not that much difference and the service is the same. I will agree with the service because the service within the grills as a whole is fantastic. Now, recently on cruises, we have seen a difference in the cutbacks and the food. Now, we have different sort of food in the Queen's Grill. When I mean different, I mean subtle changes. For example, a few more specialty sort of dishes within the menu, the a la carte. You can order certain things off menu in the Queen's Grill, which you may not be able to do in the Princess Grill. If you ask nicely, they might do it. They have done it in the past, but it all depends on what ship you're on and what team is there, should we say. But it doesn't differentiate a lot. You wouldn't go into both restaurants and think, oh my gosh, one was miles different over the other. However, on recent voyages, a lot of people have said and fed back to me, and even we got into this. They tend to use sometimes the likes of different cuts of meat. So your fillet in the Queen's might be a better fillet steak. I'm not up on my meat, but a better quality of grain of meat, should we say, compared to the Princess Grill. And not only that, in the Queen's Grill, this is one of the perks of it. I love caviar. Now, you can have caviar included in the Queen's Grill. You can't have that in the Princess Grill. It'll cost something like $90. So there's subtle changes, but Cunard are very
$90?
yes.
Like a $90 add-on?
90.
caviar?
I don't know how much that's for in its entirety. But
Yeah.
that's for my previous cruise. Of course, that might have changed. But that's what it was. But that's where it gets clever. That's where Cunard are clever in their marketing. Because as you know, a lot of
Mhm.
people in the luxury category will see the fact of, oh, you get caviar in the Queen's Grill. Even though you could be paying thousands of pounds more on top of Princess for a Queen's Grill suite, because of the luxury and extra perk, they will pay, because I'm one of them. I won't pay the thousands of pounds of difference, but you know what it's like when you get into that luxury market, the way the marketing is in its entirety for these cruise lines, they're very clever and they know what to do. Just like if you get a Queen's Grill suite, you get 2 complimentary bottles of liquor, as we call it here, or,
Yeah.
vodka or
Alcohol.
alcohol.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
in the Princess Suite, you don't. But this is where it also changes. The American viewers can correct me on this, and the Canadian and all North America side. When you book there, I believe you have an option, or it's included, that it comes with a drinks package. Now, over here, we have to add on the drinks package. Now, prior to them offering drinks packages, it's only over the last few years here that they've actually offered drinks packages on board. It used to be primarily buying, just buying on board. But I know a lot of
Uh-huh.
American friends that I have and American guests, when they book their cruise, it comes included, or if you book the grills, it comes included with the drinks package. So that's something to look out for if you are booking from different parts of the world.
Interesting. So let me just say that back to you so I understand. So if you're booking in North America,
Yeah.
when you book into the Queen's Grill and the Princess Grill or just Queen's Grill?
I can't tell you exact, but I have been in on cruises before. Or one thing a Cunard say, it's a voyage, not a cruise. So it's a Cunard voyage. Okay.
Okay.
Um,
Yes.
they have booked now. Whether again this is with the travel agent or with Cunard directly. If you actually go on to the US site, when they've booked it, there might be a deal to say if you book a Princess or a Queen's Grill suite, we will include a classic drinks package, should we say? Because I believe it's a classic and a
Okay, got it.
premium. But that was only for US and North, that side of the world, should we say.
Yeah.
Back here, it was never a thing. It was never inclusive. It was always you either
Yeah.
prepay prior to the cruise or you just buy your drinks as your pay as you go, should we say, on board.
Yeah.
So whether that's all
Okay.
changed now, because as you know, they've changed things completely over the last few years. And just recently, they have done a new drinks package. They're following the likes of P&O that have just launched, which are changing things up. I can't give you the ins and outs because I'm not sure because it hasn't come out in its entirety, but constantly changing. So it's a good thing for these viewers to understand is where you book in the world could very much change your inclusive
Yeah.
package as a whole. So always look out for that and always look out for the deals because, as I said, that your area of the world tends to have more inclusions within the
Yeah.
deal.
Okay. Good tip. Maybe try and get on the .us site or
Yes,
or
exactly.
whatever
Yeah.
if you can. Okay. Got it. Awesome. So there's two separate restaurants, depending on if you book Queen's Grill or Princess Grill.
Correct.
And also the only difference in the rooms mostly is the size between Princess and Queen's and the size of the balcony, size of the interior and size of the balcony.
Pretty much, yes. And a few perks here and there. For example, the Queen's Grill guests get a butler and the Princess Grill guests don't. So whether or
Okay.
not you use your butler, of course, it's like pretty much, I'll use Princess for an example. If you're on a Princess cruise, they don't have a butler service, but you have a full suite with access to the suite, restaurant and whatever else, or the new sanctuary
Mhm.
and all the other
Yeah.
ships, the club class, should we say. And then you have a mini suite. Mini suite is lovely, but it doesn't have the inclusions of a full suite. So think of it like that
Right.
on the Princess and Queens.
Yeah.
However, they do get the specialty restaurant, which is only for Queen's Grill guests and Princess Grill guests. And the grills in its entirety, every grill's guest will get a separate lounge, a separate sun deck, and that area, pretty much like the
Yeah.
Yacht Club or the Sanctuary Collection. For example, on Queen Anne, they now have an extended bar area. So when you go up to the grill's deck, it's its own deck with a little bar, two restaurants. So think of it, you walk up the stairs or you have your key access into the elevator. You walk out, you've got the bar, and then on the left, Princess, right, Queens, or vice versa, and they all share the same sun deck and little jacuzzi pool, plunge pool, should we say, on the new Queen Anne. Little jacuzzi on the back for Queen Mary, and Queen Elizabeth and Victoria, I don't think have a pool or a jacuzzi. But again, it differs between ships. So this is what people need to be careful of, is if you're looking specifically at the marketing tools with Cunard, you'll open the brochure and you'll see Queen Anne. You will see their little jacuzzi and their new deck area, and you automatically think, oh, that's what I'm going to get on Elizabeth, Victoria, or Queen Mary. And it's not always the case. You will get the girls' experience, of course, and you will get the deck, and you will get, but it's completely different. For example, Queen Mary's sun deck is a little section of the back ship with a small jacuzzi because she's an ocean liner in the way that she's set out. Now, if somebody was to look at the brochure and book the grills based on they want this lovely sun deck with these lovely views and these, lovely little pool and all this sort of thing, if they went on Queen Mary, they'd be quite disappointed because that wasn't what was in the brochure, because
Yeah.
they use the different same as every company, they use their biggest and best ships, but it's always something to look out for. The girls' experience as a whole, they will always get the restaurant, the bar, the sun deck, the lounge area. That's the same on all ships to a point. Different designs, different areas, but they also differentiate quite a bit depending on what ship you're on.
Yeah. Love it. Okay, that's really helpful. Okay. And so would you say that because the grills have existed, those different categories have existed for decades, do you think that Cunard really sort of led the idea of a ship within a ship concept before that term was ever even coined?
It's a very good question because I thought about this, especially at my age. Obviously, I was very lucky ever since a young age to be able to travel cruising in its entirety, whatever level on the ship you are. As we got a bit older, we've always gone in suites, which is fast, only because we preferred it and the fact that it suited our family better because it was always a multi-generational cruise. My great-grandmother, my gran, my mum, my sister, me. So it was, we had 4 generations at one point. 3 generations. And it was a case of you could have a suite connecting with a balcony cabin or 2 suites connecting. It just worked. Ship within the ship was never used because we were primarily P&O cruises who had a suite class, but it was nothing like it is today. There was pretty much no perks. You had a butler, there was no separate restaurant, stuff like that. The only time I've heard in my latter few years of cruising, so say the last 10 years, of a ship within the ship was from MSC because they sell that as a ship within a ship experience. To your question, to the point, as we said, it was very much a class-based system years ago. However, when you talk about did they invent the luxury suite level of cruising and a sanctuary within the ship, or as you said, a grill section within the ship, do I think so? To my knowledge, yes. I don't know anybody else that did it. Of course, there might have been other companies. I'm going to strongly say and confidently say yes. They started that luxury level of cruising on a mega scale for that time, because their ships at the time were the biggest in the world. They were the best. And, you're talking a level of luxury and the cost of that luxury that I certainly couldn't afford in today's world. It just so happens now that luxury is on such more of a massive scale, or mass market, should we say,
Mhm.
that it has become more affordable for someone like myself. So yeah, back then it was a very different understanding of the ship within the ship experience. But should we say they might
Yeah.
have been the pioneers of it?
Yeah, that's how I sort of see it. And then I also wonder too, because if we think historically, the movies we've seen and whatever about the ocean liners and the crossings and the class system, the lower classes didn't really mix and mingle with the upper classes. And when I'm saying class, I'm not saying people, I'm saying the level of service they
Yes.
paid for,
Yeah.
level of room they paid for. Right? I mean, there were some distinctions you couldn't cross over.
No,
And now I'm thinking if you're in one of the grills, you can go to the rest of the ship. You're not sort of
correct.
confined.
Exactly. Now, this is why, back to your original question of premium or luxury, because now these days, as you know, with Cunard, the Yacht Club, Haven, everything like that, you are able to mix. Okay, individuals who are not within the suite level of class can't come up, although, there always will be, and people always like to come and see and have a nose, and rightly so, especially on turnaround days, if it's something for you to come and have a look. But you're right. Back, it certainly was stricter and a different understanding of a ship within the ship feel back in them days, because your class-based system was right. This is you. If you're the old term of steerage, should we say, third class,
Mhm. Yeah.
where you bought your ticket, and that was your ticket for your room, and that's where you were. You might have had a little open deck at the back of the ship, or right down at the dregs of the ship, should we say. And then the ones who were in, second and first class, should we say the grills class, had free range of the ship, but just for them. So it was a lot more strict and a lot more privacy, and the fact of we are in this class of ship. And
Mhm.
this is where we're allowed to access, and you're not. As you know
Yeah.
from famous scenes within a certain movie, it very much was, and that's what it was portrayed as. You paid for
Yeah.
this, and this is what I'm getting. You paid for that, and that's where you are. Nowadays, with the grills, do we love the grills? Of course, but there's nothing better than having your food, of course, up in the grills, lovely, spend time at the bar and the sun deck, and then you roam around the ship. And that's what you do, because
Mhm.
you've got to go see things. I mean, if you want to see a show, it's not just for guests, it's for everyone. So you've got to go to the theatre.
Yeah.
If you want to visit one of the bars, or if you want to walk around the ship, you go out of the grills. So yeah, you're very much right. It's certainly changed a lot, and it's adapted. Very much so.
So, is there anything on the rest of the ship that is afforded to you or any perks that come with a grill's room?
Prior to boarding, as I touched upon earlier, you get priority boarding pretty much. So when you get to Southampton or whatever port you're in, I've only gone from Southampton on a Cunard cruise. So you've got your lovely, like any suite within certain ships. Your priority boarding, when you board, you get on board, and then you have a welcome on board lunch within the grills uh, restaurant,
Mhm.
whichever princess or queens that you are. Now,
Yeah.
that's primarily all the sort of benefits you would get there. As I said, when you get your room, if you're in the princess, there's another two things actually I forgot to mention. Princess grills get a bottle of Prosecco. And if you're in the Queen's
Mm.
Grills, you get a bottle of champagne, which is normally Laurent Perrier. That is something where a lot of people think, oh, well, no, I prefer a bottle of champagne, so I will pay the extra money, just like I was saying about the caviar. And a lot of people listening to this might think, well, I
Yeah.
certainly wouldn't. But trust me, there's a lot of people that certainly would do that. And I know quite a few of them. Within the cabins, as I said, butler service for queens, not for princess. You get a pillow menu with both rooms for princess and
Yes.
queens, larger rooms than before. And of course, them grill amenities, should we say. Amenities is the restaurant, the lounge, the bar. Of course, I might have got a few small
Yeah.
benefits.
Yeah.
But as for the best of my knowledge, you don't have certain area. You've got your grills area, but you don't have perks to say, oh, grills guests can go here first, or grill guests can go there. There's nothing like that from what my understanding. You will, on a longer voyage, get invited to a senior cocktail party, something like that. I think that's more primarily for the Queen's grills. But there's certainly no perks, as in my biggest thing is with Cunard, you pay so much. Why aren't things like Wi-Fi included? Why don't you get a
Mhm.
one-time complimentary minibar setup? In the Queen's, you get your 2 free bottles of alcohol. And if you've got a drinks package, then you should be able to have things in your minibar, as far as I'm concerned. But it's very stringent. Primarily, I believe the people who purchase the grills is because of the grills, not so much the itself. It's because of the food. The best thing for me within the grills is the food. So yeah, there certainly is a lot of benefits, and you certainly pay the price for them. But it's having that ship within the ship experience of that little deck with the restaurants, the service,
Yeah.
the attentive, the luxury of that, and making you feel luxurious.
But there's no premium seating for the theater
As I was
or
going to touch on, because Princess have actually stopped doing this now, from what I've seen. They used to do the plus and the premium package, and they would give you premium seating, within the theatre, or MSC Yacht Club have their section of the
Mhm.
theatre.
Yeah.
Nothing like that. Nothing at all. It's like any other mainstream cruise line where you've got to get there as early as you can if there's a good show. So again, well done for touching on that, because something I was going to go into is the fact of where's perks like that when you pay that much money. Look at what other lines are doing and what their inclusions are is non-existent. And I don't think it ever has been. Now, talking about the earlier years of cruising, I can't comment, but certainly over the last 15 odd years that I've been with Cunard, I've never had premium seating or anything like that sort. Priority over whatever, you know?
Yeah, because part of the luxury experience is sort of ease. And if it's a really popular show, I don't know how big the theaters are, but if it's a really popular show, and let's say you've got a group of 4 or 5, like you don't want to have to, if you're paying all that for the grills, you don't want to have to rush through your dinner or whatever so that you can make sure to get to the theater in time to get
Completely agreed.
all of your seats together.
Absolutely. And as you know, and like many ship within the ship experiences, they're either at the top, out of the way of the theatre, so you've got to
Hmm.
get there. And the grills experience when it comes to dining is a formal affair. You're not talking 2 or 3 courses. You can have 4, 5, 6 courses, as many as you want. So you go to dinner and you treat it like a banquet. You go, of course,
Mm,
everybody's
yeah,
different. They can go then, they just want a main course. But for me, when I'm on a Cunard cruise and I've paid that grill's price, I want to go to dinner and I want to
yeah,
sit there and I want to enjoy with my friends and family and have this amazing food and then not have to rush anywhere. So, as you rightly said there, if you don't have that priority seating or certain areas within the ship where something is on entertainment wise, are you going to have that factor of, oh gosh, am I going to make it? And yeah, you're right.
yeah.
I completely agree.
Anything else? You know what? I realize like I don't talk to many people about the spa. It doesn't come up that often as I'm talking to people about their experience, but are there any spa perks that might go along with girls' experience?
Again, from what I have seen, whether that's the fact that I'm not a spa person, so that's just me and that's just my own preference. I have family and friends that absolutely love the spa. So I wouldn't really go through my grill's sort of benefits and think, oh, I've got spa treatment included. But I can tell
Okay.
you
Yeah.
99.9% certainty that nothing like that is included at all. So again, MSC is, I'll use them. You've got access to the Ura spa area, that comes with it,
Yeah.
which normally you have to pay for. I don't know about NCL or the likes of Princess. I don't think they have any exclusive benefits there. In regards to the spa, very nice spas with every treatment and everything that you can think of.
Yeah, for
But
sure.
again,
Yeah.
no, you would think being in the grills, you would get the likes of, from my understanding, people may differ with me. If you're paying that much money, why aren't your drinks included? Like every other line that you pay for that level? Why
Yeah.
isn't your internet included? Why haven't you got them? I don't know. Now, this is something else that comes up. Some companies will offer you free meal specialty dining for one night. I also know that some of the staunch Cunarders that are listening, and certainly myself, will know that no specialty restaurant will touch how good the grills are. People might have different preferences. Like I love the Veranda Steakhouse, in which I go to. A perk of my loyalty is I get to have a lunch once in one of the voyages for my diamond status. So
Hmm.
I go there, and is it amazing? Yes. And is it a different level to the girls? No. Is it a better setting? No, I'm not going to say so. But because it's speciality and you've technically paid for it, you do feel a little bit special because it is a
Hmm.
speciality restaurant. However, the
Yeah.
grills in its entirety is a speciality restaurant for the grills.
Yeah.
So yeah, I can't give you a definite answer on the spa, but I can say with 99.9% that no perks like that are included.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So, I know you were earlier on, and for people who aren't watching on YouTube, you were sort of like grading the different levels. Is there a level of stateroom above the grills?
No. So you get standard sort of level, should we say, leading category is Britannia. So Britannia balcony, Britannia inside, Britannia ocean view. And then you've got a
Mhm.
Britannia club, which is standard balcony cabin like you would have normally, or veranda for you guys. But you have little perks such as you do have a separate restaurant called the Britannia Club Restaurant. Now,
Okay.
this
Yeah.
is, again, mixed reviews, but this is a separate restaurant on Elizabeth, Victoria, and Anne that you can
Mhm.
go for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I think it's only lunch on sea days, but I can check that.
Yeah.
Where you will have the same table for your entire voyage with the same staff or the same crew, very much like the suite experience and like the grills. But it's a little attentive. You get a little a la carte menu as well, only a few dishes on there, such as the rack of lamb and Dover sauces like that.
Mhm.
Um, where you get speciality where sometimes as well they'll do a table side like in the grills pretty much everything you order is table side. They'll prep it in front of
Yeah.
you. The Britannia Club is obviously a bit more expensive than the normal Britannia. Is it worth it? We've
Mhm.
done it and I certainly think it is for the right price and I very much enjoyed it, but that's primarily the only perk you get there apart from priority boating. That's also included and possibly a few other perks. And then you get to the grills. So I'll go from the bottom. It's Britannia Club, Princess Grill, and Queen's Grill. Nothing above
Got
Queen's
it.
Grill. So there's also
Got
obviously loads of different categories of Queen's Grill suites, ranging from the standard layout Q6 all the way up to the duplex suite.
it.
There can
Okay.
be multiple levels, but of course depends on what ship you're on.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay. So you talked a little bit about, is the Britannia Club worth it? What do you think after all of your experiences on luxury and maybe even you've been on some premium ships and a higher level suite? Do you think the value is there, or is it more that the history behind it? Does that add a little bit to it that you really can't put a price tag on?
I always come back to this. Everybody has different experiences and everybody has a different sort of expectation of the level of luxury or premium class, whatever way you put it. If you're happy paying a price and you're happy with your service, then that's down to you. You're going to have a different experience to me. You're going to like different things. Do I believe that Cunard Grills, should we say, is expensive? Yes, of course it is. And just like any other cruise line, even though we know now that we're going into the luxury market that there are certain categories of luxury that I believe to be good value, do I
Mhm.
constantly see myself going back to the grills? Yes, because I love it for the history. I love it because the grill speaks to me in regards to it was one of the first, and I always aspired to go in the grills because as a child, we couldn't go as a massive family because it was just too expensive. And it was an
Mhm.
older expression of cruising there where even though I know a lot of children that did go, it is a family area, certainly now, but it wasn't somewhere where we would go as young children because it wasn't the place to be. I don't mean that in a nasty way, but very much on different lines. If you're even in a suite, you're in a main dining room, or you get a Pacific thing where the company is different. There, of course, it was a very formal affair. So it's say now, for
Mhm.
example, if we're going 3 weeks in the Caribbean, we'd like to go with P&O because back then it was a family orientated ship in which it was a much more relaxed feel. Now, can you imagine having 10 family members with 5 kids, all under the age of 10, who don't want to dress up, don't want to go
Yeah.
to dinner for 3.5 hours, even though the service is amazing, don't want to be, put in a position where they feel like they can't run around. Not that you're going to, in dinner, you don't want anybody running around,
Or
but
be loud or
yeah,
joke around or,
exactly. And it was a much different times back then where cruising was
Mhm.
for the more affluent and older generation. That's all changing. Of course, it
Yeah.
still remains, but certainly with Cunard, I will say with absolute fact, their grills will always be sold out because I've seen it from day one. I always return because I do believe it's good value money for what you get in respect to the food and the sweet and stuff like that. But the inclusions, no. I'm going to say, as I touched on quite a few times now within this episode, there should be more inclusions, e.g., internet,
Yeah.
drinks, because Cunard are one of the most expensive. Of course, I haven't been on Royal Caribbean. I know that drinks are expensive if you don't get certain, you know,
Yeah.
drinks packages or if you want a certain level of loyalty. However, because it's American, back here in Britain, we normally say now a pint of lager, should we say, is £5. That's what it is.
Yeah.
With American lines, it's $5 plus a gratuity, plus duty,
Right.
whatever it is. So it works out very expensive. So I think there's a catch 22 there. You may pay a lot for the grills anyway, but it's value for money if you know what you get and you're happy with the service provided. But then if you don't have that drinks package, they're also then making you spend a lot of money on drinks. You don't have to drink, of course, I'm not saying that. But
Right. Yeah.
all the add-ons, like we talked about before, everything now is an add-on. Internet, drinks. Yeah, it might have been before, but a lot of cruise companies now, more mainstream premium lines, have that included with the package that you get. For example, I'll go back to Princess or MSC Yacht Club, who have everything included. As you know, if you go in a suite or yacht club or a sanctuary
Right.
collection, you have,
Yeah.
you know, everything's there. There's no extra apart from treatments and something else. So yes, I do believe a lot of returning Cunarders, should we say, are there for the history and they've seen a massive change, but they don't want to take the delve into different cruise lines and the heritage of it and the fact that it is Queen Mary to Queen Elizabeth, Queen Victoria, Queen Anne. And I'm one of these where, I'm going back on Queen Mary twice next year because she is the Queen Mary, Queen Mary 2. She is that iconic
Yeah.
ocean liner that I don't think we'll ever see again. And there's only one of her. So, like with me, I go on cruises sometimes specifically for the ship. I don't care where I'm going because I know that they're not going to be here forever. And I will return to that vessel because I love it. So, yeah, it's very much an open market where there's a lot of returning customers. There are a lot of new breed of customers now who are trying the luxury aspect of it and then might think, well, hang
Yeah.
on, I understand that Cunard have got that luxury aspect called the grills. We'll give it a go, even though it's on a more of a mass market. Um, but yeah, I think it's one of them where you have to try it to see if it's value for you. Will you feel special? Yes, of course. Is it amazing? Yes. As I said, one of the best things about it is the food because I believe the food blows out the likes of Princess, MSC. I haven't done the Haven for years, so I can't really comment on that. But the food is exquisite.
Yes. Okay. Good. Awesome. Anything else that, maybe I didn't ask or we didn't touch on about the girls' experience?
There is two things that I'm going to actually touch on. It's the iconic afternoon tea. So this is the white glove afternoon tea. You may believe that I know a lot of people who genuinely have gone on a Cunard cruise because they wanted to experience the Queen's Room. This is where it's served in the Queen's Room, where all the crew or the bellboys or whatever they're called, with all their white uniforms, their white gloves, and it's a tradition. It's a spectacle. Lined up. You walk in, they're clapping. They come around with the teas, they come around with the sandwiches, the cakes, the scones, scones or scones, whichever way you say it. And it's
The
just
tower? Come with their
it's
tower?
not a tower because everything is served to you from the team that are looking after you. So you can see it. It's all on silver tray. So it's certainly not, that's more of, when you pay to go to an afternoon tea and it's there on the table. This is pretty much people
Okay.
would queue up for up to an hour because it's included. Remember, no, this isn't an extra. Well done, actually, because in the grills, Princess, this is where it gets funny. On Cunard, if you go to afternoon tea in the grills, it's only served in the Princess Grills restaurant. It's not served in the Queen's. So you're all in the Princess Grill restaurant, but that is served on a tower. But if you're
Okay.
in downstairs for the traditional afternoon tea in the Queen's room, which is a lovely big room, apart from Queen Anne, it's a lovely big room where the dancing is held, and you'll have a live orchestra or a dance, a couple dancing. It's a spectacle to behold. And of course, with that, it's amazing what people think with you get some people coming with white gloves and pouring you tea is such an event, should we say? But it really is, and we
Right.
love it. Even though we're in the grills, we end up queuing and waiting in line and going down to do it because it's one of them where your phone's out, you're taking a video and you're having a picture with
Yeah.
whoever's serving you. And that is lovely. It's unique to Cunard. Of course, everybody does afternoon tea to an extent, but I think really did start the afternoon tea tradition. Exactly. And the other thing
Yeah.
is, I don't see it in a lot of cruise lines now, but Cunard are very much in the market for their traditional ballroom dancing. So you will go to the ballroom or the Queen's Room where you're actually invited, you're encouraged to partake in the dance. And they
Yeah.
have a dancing couple who are on board primarily just for dancing. And they also employ individuals who come on board to make sure, like, if Mrs. Jones is on by herself and she wants to dance, or if Mr. Jones is
Yeah.
on by himself and wants to dance. And we love that because I've seen such a variety of individuals from all aspects of life, whether that's someone who doesn't have anybody and they've always cruised on their own, or someone who has been an avid Cunarder, should we say, for 50 years and he or she has lost their partner. and they've come on, and these individuals will go up to them and say, and the story's told. And then people will actually go back on these voyages because they've met Steve or Susie who danced with them. And they want to know what cruise they're on next because they know they feel at home, they feel comfortable. And that really resonates with me because my nan lost her husband, my grandfather. And although she didn't do any solo cruising because I was always jumping at the bit to get on a cruise with her or my family. However, I know that she would have loved that, and we loved watching it. And it was, as you said, a tradition, a spectacle. And watching people dance, and I can't dance, but I gave it a go. But watching the ones that really can was like, you'd sit there, even as a youngster, and go, oh, wow, that's something. It's like we have Strictly Come Dancing, and you have Dancing with the Stars.
Right, exactly. Yeah, that's beautiful. Wow, that's a beautiful story. I love that. Awesome. Well, tell us where you're headed to next. What's on the agenda in terms of luxury cruising or travel otherwise?
Quite a few different trips here and there that are non-cruise related, so that's just popping out to Spain and stuff like that, just for a few city breaks. But I'm trying a new luxury line of cruising. I'm trying to Azamara early next year. I forgot the exact date, so I'll come back to you on that one. So that's going to be a new one that I'm going on. At the same time, only within a few days of each other, we're going Explorer once again, but this time it's only for 5 nights, so a little jaunt out because the price was so good. And then Azamara, I got a couple of grills cruises. So I am now doing, I've got Queen Anne next year and I've got Queen Mary, both in the grills. I've also got, I think it's a Silver Sea or a Seabourn, which is going to be new to me because I haven't done them. I completely forgot which one. And I'm looking at a Regent one, but unfortunately it's well out of my price range at the moment because they are right up there price-wise, and even too much for myself who loves to save and spend that extra on luxury. However, too much for me. So you could say there's quite a few cruises in there. I'm trying to book another Krystal one, but my parents they got their 35th wedding anniversary, so they're going on Krystal back on Serenity next year, which I'm biting at the bit, as we say back here, to get on. But I'm hopefully going down to meet them because the company that I book with are going to invite me down for the ship for a day because I'm going to see them anyway because I'm going to pick them up for Southampton. I'm going to jump on board there. But yes, in between now and our next episode, I can guarantee you I would have booked something else and we'll have something else to speak about. So,
well, it's great talking to you always. We're recording this almost at the end of the year. Have a wonderful end of the year and a happy new year. I can't wait to hear about your 2026 cruises. And to the audience, thank you for listening. And until next time, I wish you safe and luxurious cruising. Hey, before you go, if you're enjoying this content, I would so appreciate a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you're listening to this podcast. If you'd like to be on the show, there's a link to a form in the show notes, or you can email me at luxurycruisingpodcast@gmail.com. That's luxurycruisingpodcast@gmail.com. I hope to hear from you soon.